Hello and welcome back to another episode of Print Shoot Repeat. I unfortunately got zucked again. We'll get to that later. I've been banished to Siberia. That's why I have the coat on. It's very cold. I'm in this garage in a nondescript location. It's extremely cold. Maybe you can see my breath, maybe not, but let's talk about the FGC9 Mark II.
I am extremely peaceful. I am extremely Hey, I just want to say thank you to our exclusive channel sponsor, KAK Industry, for supporting this channel and making this possible. KAK Industry, this July, they celebrated 10 years of quality USA made in-house manufacturing of firearm components. Let's give them a clap. Thanks, KAK. Back to the video.
I know you might be thinking, that's a very clickbaity title, but I've got you here and I want to explain a few things about my FGC9 Mark II and why I haven't done the video yet and what is in store. So if you are a regular watcher of this channel, you've been watching for a while, I did release a progress update on my FGC9 Mark II. I went to shoot the gun and I had an out of battery. Okay. Oh shit. Detonation, which didn't injure me or anything. It just cracked the receiver and I had to reprint it. So it's been a few months since I did that and I have tested it a few times, but I haven't done a full video because I just can't get it to run the way I want it to, and I want to do the video justice. I want to do the gun justice. I want to do Jay Stark and those that created this firearm justice. So I really have just been waiting to make sure that it functions properly so that I can do the video properly. And I don't want to be dishonest to you guys. I want to show what's happened. So there's been a few things. Let me go first off into the MAF kit, the wind chimes. What happened was the springs that were initially shipped in the first batch of the wind chime kits, these firing pin springs were very weak and they were to a spec that was not strong enough. So what happened was those firing pins were just completely smushing the springs and the springs were deformed so that we got feeding issues, which was happening with me. Frequently I had feeding issues. And then on top of that, there was a chamfer on the bolt face that shouldn't have been there. And that resulted in basically the bolt not fully closing. And so those issues have been fixed. There have been a few out of battery detonations that I've seen, not just that I've experienced, but that I've seen people reporting on Twitter and other places about having out of batteries with these MAF wind chime kits. And I'm not going to throw them under the bus or anything. So one of the important things to remember when we talk about these issues that we've had is this is an improvised firearm. So it is meant to be made out of completely non-firearm parts, okay? A good way to think about it is when a kit for a firearm, even a wind chime kit that's not intended for a firearm, just wind chimes, it's rifled and everything's specifically made to fit a specific specification. Whereas if you were going to make this fully on your own, like with an ECM'd barrel or something like that, the tolerances are such in case someone doesn't, mess something up, whether it's the printing or the ECMing of the barrel and the tolerances aren't perfect, the FGC9 Mark II is intended to work throughout a wide spectrum of tolerances. And so when you put in a very, very tight kind of precision part like a wind chime, sometimes what you get is a narrow window of what can function properly. So I believe these issues have been addressed with the bolt faces and the chamfers. I was sent a new wind chime bolt. I'm not saying that all of the wind chimes are not going to work because I feel like they figured it out now, but the initial batches, which is what I got, had some issues, and that led to some of the problems I was experiencing. So what problems have I experienced? So personally, on my own FGC9, I've had two out of batteries, one that damaged the receiver, one that didn't, and then I've had a hang fire that was just very mysterious, which I'll show you as well. And I've had on another FGC9 that wasn't mine, but that we did fire on Vin's FGC9, I had an out of battery while I was shooting it. On his FGC9, he reprinted it and we had a very violent out of battery when he was shooting it. So I will show you the footage of those, but I will go through and explain kind of what happened initially. So the first out of battery, which I'll show now. Okay. The receiver cracked and I was left completely unharmed. Just the receiver cracked a tiny bit. And I looked at some of the footage and I was realizing that the bolt wasn't fully closing. And so I had a couple like very minor, like bolt not closing, but it did fire. But then I had this very strange hang fire that I can't even fully explain. And you know what? Sometimes things happen with guns, particularly homemade ones, that you can't really explain. And if someone in the comments feels like they can explain this, then please feel free. I was pointing downrange. Unfortunately, it's a reminder for me to always keep that muzzle even and against what you're gonna be shooting is the berm. We were in a very rural area and I'm sure nothing happened, but that round did go beyond the berm in the air and I was not proud of that. Whether it was negligent or not, I guess is up to you to decide, but I definitely didn't pull the trigger and I was just merely racking the bolt back. And when I racked the bolt back, the round that was in the chamber, it detonated, which is surprising to me because the case, I guess, stayed in the chamber. I still can't really fully understand it. The hammer didn't hit the firing pin to strike the primer. I'm still just kind of unsure as to how that even happened, but I will roll the footage so you can look at it. Rolling over there. Okay. FGC9 Mark II mag dump. Let's go. Ah, damn. All right. We ran into a jam. Oh wow, that primer is getting fucking annihilated. Holy shit. All right, let's try it again. Ooh. All right, the next out of battery that I had was, I was filming with Win, and we were using his FGC9 Mark II that he had built using a wind chime kit. From what I understand, it was the original spring, and he had not had any issues with it. So I was firing it, and in the middle of firing it, everything was going pretty well, and it was functioning until I just had an out of battery, and it's fairly simple, straightforward. The bolt doesn't fully seat the round, and as a result, it blew up the receiver a little bit. It cracked it. I was totally fine. I mean, basically my hand was there, and you could see my thumb kind of, the force of the detonation kind of pushing my thumb back off the receiver. It felt like someone took their hand to just like slap my hand really hard, but it was like a big high five, but that was all it felt. I didn't have any pain or anything. I just kind of could feel that force of that detonation in my hands, which is a little freaky, but I was totally fine. So that was the third one that happened, and I will roll that right now. Looks like we got a little feeding issue here. That one fed all right. Let's keep going. Boom. Boom. All right. Woohoo! Oh, fuck. We're okay. I'm good. Boom. All right. Woohoo! Oh, fuck. We're okay. I'm good. The next and last one that happened is probably why you're watching this video, is we had reassembled the FGC9 after it had the out of battery, which cracked it, and we had to reprint the upper, which Vin did. So we reprinted the upper, and we were about to go out the next day to shoot it again, and I mentioned to Vin, I was like, hey, maybe we should try test shooting it first since the last one blew up in my hands, and which of course he agreed. So we went down into his basement to test fire it, and in a very safe, controlled barrel that he's got that's meant for test firing, by the way. Don't just pop rounds off in your basement without a way to properly be safe, okay? So we went and we've test fired it, and on the third shot, we had a big kaboom, and I will roll that right now. Oh, fuck.
We got that?
Yep.
Whoa, sweet. All right.
Holy fuck.
Woo!
Glad we did that.
Yeah, for real.
Oh,
We got that on video.
buddy.
Holy! That's pretty sick, right?
Holy shit.
Oh,
Fuck.
oh boy. You know the critics of 3D printing are going to have a field day with that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Holy
Woo.
fuck. Let's look at that. Oh, my God.
We might have had an out of battery again. Well, let's re-roll the footage and see what happened.
Yeah, let's look at that. Oh, my goodness.
So the bolt survived.
Oh, fuck.
We got that?
Yep.
Whoa, sweet.
So you can see what's happening is the first couple rounds actually were slightly out of battery. And the third one, it really, you can see there's a big space there. And when there's a big space and the round isn't seated like that, you get a detonation that is your typical out of battery detonation. This one was the most violent I've seen on an FGC-9. We're lucky we weren't holding it. I don't know how much damage it would have done, but it certainly was not a good situation if you're holding that with both hands, if you're a lefty especially. So I did see someone on Reddit who was a lefty who had a similar issue. Got a little cut on his hand, but wasn't seriously injured, and had a similar issue with the out of battery. What can we learn from this information that we've gathered? So unfortunately, part of developing homemade firearms is you run into some issues. And with these wind chime kits, it seemed like there was some issues that maybe could have been problem solved a little bit better. Unfortunately, you know, we're at where we are at. And I would say that I think they've cleared up those issues. However, it is very important to note, and I don't want you guys to think, oh, the FGC-9 Mark II is a unsafe design, because it's not. This gun, let me be extremely clear, it was intended to be homemade from scratch, not using a kit or wind chimes or anything else. This was meant to be made by you, completely by you, including the barrel, ECM, or rifling the barrel. So when you get a barrel blank and rifle it, or ECM a barrel, there's a little bit more loose tolerance there. And to my knowledge, and I've confirmed this with a couple people, there have been no documented out-of-battery detonations with homemade ECM or otherwise barrels and bolts. So I think it's very important to mention that the kits seem to be the common denominator between these out-of-battery detonations. And when you have a homemade barrel, it does not seem to have these issues. So, and that is the way the firearm was intended to be made. Let's be very clear about that. So in conclusion, I would say I would love to eventually try the ECMing of the barrel, but I am so busy and I put so much time and effort into making these videos and editing and making the songs in the videos and filming, obviously. I do it all myself. It's sometimes hard to sit down and take a project like this, where I have to ECM the barrel and all that stuff on my own into my hands. So I'm not positive if I'll end up getting to ECMing a barrel or if I could borrow one or something like that. We'll see. But I think the important lesson to learn is that these are homemade firearms, and when you use something that's not necessarily intended for the original purpose, like the wind chimes, they're meant to be very precise. And in doing so, you're kind of changing the nature of the firearm. So nothing against MAF or other manufacturers that are making kits for the FGC-9. There have also been other documented non-MAF kits having these issues too. So I want to make sure that that's very clear. The issues, I think, have been resolved, but that is why I've had the issues I've had. Now, what am I gonna do now? So I have my Mark II, which I had running perfectly fine, and I replaced the spring on the firing pin. The bolt, like I said, has been resent back to me by MAF, and they have fixed it. And I've gotten a few rounds off on this with zero issues since. So I believe it's going to be okay. I'm going to do some testing on it, but what I should do is just obviously be careful and be mindful every time I take a shot. If that bolt is seating, and if it's consistently seating properly, I think I should be okay. But the video is coming, guys, and I know you've been waiting for a long time, but that is the issues that I've run into when I've been firing this thing, and I think you can understand why I've been a little bit apprehensive to put this out and to film with it. I have installed a couple new really cool parts. The Riptide Rails ejector, which is an aluminum ejector, and the Riptide Rails feed ramp. Now, the feed ramp is actually a very useful part to be aluminum because after a few thousand rounds, that feed ramp that's made out of PLA can wear out, and it will wear out most likely. So that's actually a very useful part to have in there because it's one less part that's going to wear out after use. So I want to thank Riptide Rails for sending me that. I hope you enjoyed the footage of watching an out of battery in really slow motion. You know, I got it 240 frames per second, and that was pretty badass, even though obviously we didn't want to see an out of battery. It's pretty cool to watch, and no one was hurt, and everything was done safely. So I want to, you know, obviously be thankful to Vin for helping me film that and using his basement to test it. And Vin's a great guy. If you haven't, follow him on Instagram, 3D Printing Fun Lover 5000. Hope he doesn't get zucked as well. If you didn't know, comrades, my account got deleted again. I am now print shoot repeat underscore V4 because it's my 4th account. I don't doubt I'll be deleted again, but this is the nature of what happens when you make entertaining videos about 3D printed guns. I mean, it's really very clear. I'm just doing this as a project, an art project. It's fun, and I show my creations. I am not an extremist. I really am not. Okay, I just like to show my 3D printed guns. I guess maybe I'll put airsoft next time on the hashtag. Maybe I won't get deleted. I have a couple more videos coming. I know I want you guys to bear with me because it's the holiday season. I've been very busy. I've been building lots of guns. I've got videos on those coming soon. You know, it's that time of year where not a lot's going on in the work productivity realm, but I will have at least another video before the end of the month, and I want to do a year in review for PSR. So I also got a special announcement in that video. So thank you very much, you guys, for tuning into another episode of Print Shoot Repeat. I really, really appreciate you watching. You're the best fan base anyone could ask for. This YouTube thing, it keeps giving back to me, and I hope it gives to you too. And I just am continuously impressed and inspired by you. And I really appreciate that you like these videos and songs. So thank you very much. And I will see you again soon, comrades. From Siberia, I say goodbye.
Social media. Hey now, yeah, I got a K now. No, I'm not okay. No, no, I'm not okay. No, no. Hey now, yeah, I got 10K now, but I'm not okay. No, but I'm not okay. No, whoa. Hey now, yeah, I got a K now. No, I'm not okay. No, no, I'm not okay. No, no. Hey now, yeah, I got a K now. No, I'm not okay. No, but I got 10K now. Whoa. I am no longer in the comma club. 4-digit peasants, yeah, you should give up. No, it's not chance. No, it's not luck. I got a K, now I don't give a fuck.
Oh!